Well, there was this one girl who looked kind of like a blue scarecrow, but she scared me. But you seem nice.
Hi, Peaches. Even though Psychonauts 2 has specific graphics, the story is very interesting, so shouldn't skip this one. Enjoy! Rasputin Aquato, a psychic who hides his abilities from his parents. The Aquatos family is a traveling circus that hates psychics cause one of them cursed them to die in water. One day, a stranger handed Raz a brochure of the Whispering Rock Psychic Summer Camp. This camp is a training facility for psychic kids operated by the international espionage agency, the Psychonauts. That day, Raz ran out from home and entered the camp. There, he met many other psychics. Secret agents Sasha 9 and Mia Wadello, who taught him new abilities Levitation and Psyblast, and Fort Crawler, the founder of the Psychonauts, who taught him Pyro and Telekinesis. This guy can use teleportation and can be in many places at the same time. He even settled in Raz's head. Yeah, sounds strange, especially the fact that it's possible to lure him out only with a piece of juicy bacon. Anyway, things were going great. Raziman was rewarded for his hard work. But suddenly the grand head of the Psychonauts, Truman Zanato, was kidnapped. So, Rasputin and the agents jump on a jet and rush to find him. In some hole in the ocean, they find Truman held captive by Dr. Labato, an unlicensed dentist and amateur brain surgeon. Even though they were able to free Truman, the doctor managed to do something with his brain, so he began to behave strangely. After several penetrations into Labato's brain, the agent still couldn't figure out who he was working for. During another check, Raz saw the main fear of Labato, Maligula. Maligula is the strongest psychic controlling the water. 20 years ago, she destroyed their country Grulovia and took many lives with it. Then Fort Crawler defeated her. But now, the followers of Maligula are going to bring her back to life. One of them works for the Psychonauts agency, which means there's a spy. When they arrived, they were met by the lesser head of the Psychonauts, Hollis Forsyth. By the way, this is Lily Zanato, Truman's daughter and Raz's girlfriend. Agent Forsyth doesn't allow Raz to join the mission since he's just a kid, so she decides to put him in the intern program. She then assigns him a mentor, Nick Johnsmith, who is not even a psychic, but just good at sorting letters. When Raz gets to work, he discovers an unusual package for the Grand Head himself. Deciding to take the package directly to Truman, he inadvertently finds out that there is Nick Johnsmith's body inside, but a little brainless. The agents thought this could be a warning, or maybe Nick was a double agent. Things get even more confusing, so Raz tries to support Lily, but he only makes it worse, so she runs away upset. When he is alone with her father, Truman suddenly opens his eyes. He entrusts Rasputin with a secret mission to find the founder of the Psychonauts and bring him back. As you remember, Fort is currently in Raz's head, and to lure him out of there, he needs to find a piece of bacon. When Raz gets the bacon, although dirty lying on the floor,
Gross. Enjoy your dirty bacon, kid.
he easily lures Ford out and tells him everything that happened, but he only cares about the bacon. So, Raz decides to look into his head to figure everything out on his own. By the way, before that, Agent Forsyth taught him and other students a new psychic ability, Mental Connection, which allows to combine thoughts and even fix them. After the battle with Maligula, all the 6 Psychonauts ceased to be themselves. Something has changed in each of them. In other words, they fell apart. In Fort's head, Raz finds 7 pillars of each Psychonaut. This means there were actually 7 of them, not 6. The 7th was a woman named Lucretia Max, but he couldn't find out more because Ford wanted to eat his bacon as soon as possible, so he forcibly drove him out of his head, after which he disappeared. In fact, he was tripled in 3 Fords. The first Ford locked himself in a bowling alley, the second in a hair salon, and the third in the mailroom. To make Ford Crawler whole again, Raz must fix each of 3 Fords.
Pony? Flat rate. First class.
Before doing this, his family suddenly comes. His father finally stopped denying his psychic powers, but his mother still hates fortune tellers, as she calls them. By the way, his sister Fraser is also psychic, but hides it from her family. And his little brother Quippy also inherited psychic abilities. The most important member of their family is a granny named Nona. Well, she just repeats the same phrase all the time.
Don't go near the water. Yes, I know about that part, but...
Now back to Ford. To fix him, Russ has to run errands from all 3 Fords. Thus he finds another Psychonaut, Agent Compton Bull. But he is a little overwhelmed, so Russ fixes him. After receiving Agent Bull's pass, he gets access to the bowling alley, where he finally gets into the head of the first Ford and fixes it too. Everything went smoothly with the second Ford too. Russ just got into his head when he was cutting a client's hair and fixed it as well. But there was a minor problem with the third Ford, since only Nick Johnsmith could get into the mailroom. But he's brainless.
Nick! TV?
So, Russ goes to another member of the Psychic Six, an engineering expert, Otto Mentalis.
When I designed that one, I was sad. That one, I was just hungry.
In his lab, Rasputin quite accidentally finds the brain of another one of them, Helmut Fulber. As it turned out, after the battle with Maligula, Helmut saved Truman Zanardo by sacrificing himself. Then his body was lost, and his brain ended up in this lab. Well, thanks to Nick Johnsmith, or rather, his body,
Ooh!
and Helmut's brain, Russ gets to the third fort and fixes his brain as well. Eventually, we find out that Maligula's real name is Lucretia, so she is the 7th Psychonaut. Moreover, she was Ford's sweetheart. One day, a war broke out in Grulovia, and Lucretia had to return to her family to protect them. However, her evil part broke out and began to destroy everything. Then she was nicknamed Maligula. Her Psychonauts friends had to attack her because she was too dangerous. Everyone believed that Ford Crawler killed Maligula himself, but in fact, he locked her alter ego deep inside and hid Lucretia among the Aquato family. Yeah, that Granny Nona is actually Lucretia. And the real grandmother of Raz is Lucretia's own sister Marona. By the way, she's been dead for a long time. Even though Raz is angry about what Ford did with his family, he agrees to help put everything back in its place as Lucy's memory is recovering. He then finds the remaining 2 Psychonauts, Truman's uncle Bob Zanardo, who got drunk and became depressed after the battle with Maligula,
Ow!
and Cassiopeia, who wandered in the forest for a long time, being the Queen of Bees. Thus, the 6 Psychonauts finally gather in one place, where they try to figure everything out together using Kota's invention.
What's Nick from the mailroom doing here?
So, Ford and Rasputin get into Lucy's head. Here, Russ finds out that his grandma was a mysterious person who gave him a brochure to the Whispering Rock Psychic Summer Camp. It's like some part of her knew she was living a lie, so she sensed Russ's power and thought he could help her. In any case, they found the place where Ford locked Maligula in Lucy's mind and decided to open it. But suddenly Truman pulls Russ out of her head. By the way, Lily decided to follow her father when he suddenly got up and left somewhere, cause his acting seemed too suspicious to her. So, they decide to jump into the Grand headset together and find out what's going on. When they get inside, everything becomes clear.
What the heck?
In fact, this is not Truman's brain. It belongs to Nick John Smith. Also, he is a prince of Grulovia. 20 years ago, his family ruled Grulovia. As he says, everything was perfect and peace reigned. But in fact, they forced Lucy to silence people who protested against the royal family. Thus, she caused storms and downpours, after which the inhabitants nicknamed her Maligula. When Maligula began to destroy everything in her path, the royal family turned away from her. They once tried to get rid of her. But the people of Grulovia decided to overthrow their Czar, since they could no longer live in poverty and suffering. Then the royal family was forced to leave their lands and wander until they found themselves underwater. On the verge of death, Czar Crystal Malik's father, it's Nick's real name by the way, told him the truth about Maligula, that she is still alive, hidden by fort. Therefore, Crystal came up with a plan to infiltrate the agency of Psychonauts as a postal worker. He kidnapped Truman and, with the help of Dr. Alvaro, got rid of his brain and replaced it with his own brain. When Roz and Lily come out, the rest of the agents come running. They don't understand what's going on since they still think it's Truman. While Lily and Roz were trying to explain what was happening, Maligula broke out. She immediately recognized her prince and rushed at him. But the real prince was still in Truman's body, so she was completely confused. As a result, she decided to destroy everyone. Meanwhile, Russ goes to help his parents because they remembered the whole truth and were upset. However, they get back on their feet quickly and, using their family circus trick, they throw Russ straight to Maligula's brain. Inside, Russ finds out that Maligula killed her sister Marona, but her evil essence doesn't care about that since she killed many people. Despite this, a good part of Lucy takes over and decides to lock Maligula deep inside herself. So together they manage to destroy her and bring Lucy back. And yeah, Lily discovers her father's brain in a box that has always been next to him. In fact, Dr. Lobato should have put Truman's brain in a box and thrown it into the ocean, but since he's a little, out of mind, he did the opposite. He just put them in a box that he tied to Truman. By the way, all this time, Truman Zanata's brain was with him, but none of the agents even noticed it. At the end of the game, Russ gets a new psychic degree. He's not an intern anymore. Now he's a junior agent of Psychonauts. By the way, Nick's brain was given to Ford for experiments. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel and become a patron. See you next game.